Hello to everyone. I am Dr.D.B.Kumar. Today I will be telling you a few things on how one should approach geography section in the preliminary examination as well as in the mains exam. In the preliminary examination, the syllabus mentions geography of India and geography of the world. Of course, students are first supposed to have a clear understanding of the basic principles and the underlying scientific processes which are at work to produce various geographic phenomena. Students are therefore expected to have a clear understanding of physical geography, which is also called as world geography. Having done physical geography thoroughly in terms of basic concepts and basic principles, you can then proceed to understand the same geographic phenomenon in the context of different regions of the world, including India. So, you are to start with world physical geography so that you have a clear grip over the basics and then proceed to understand geography of India and the relevant portions of the syllabus for geography of world. The preliminary examination mentions the syllabus as geography of world, in terms of physical, social and economic geography. Physical geography of the world, social geography of the world, economic geography of the world. Physical geography deals with a series of processes which lead to the development of different landforms, including certain what are called as geophysical phenomena. That part of physical geography which deals with the development of different landforms, like the development of fold mountain belts like the Himalayas, the development of different plateaus. That part is actually geomorphology. So, one part of physical geography is geomorphology. Another part of physical geography is climate geography. You know that climate geography deals with a series of meteorological phenomena. A student is expected to understand the basics of atmosphere in terms of its structure, its origin, and then proceed to understand temperature characteristics of the Earth's atmosphere, pressure characteristics, pressure belts, wind systems. These will lay the foundations to understand weather and climatic phenomena like cyclones of different varieties, like the world climatic belts, other weather disturbances like the thunderstorms, air fronts. So, to understand these meteorological phenomena, which include weather disturbances and also climatic belts of the world, a student approaching the preliminary examination is expected to first have a clear understanding of the basic processes and principles which are part of atmosphere, its temperature characteristics, as I said to you, pressure characteristics, and of course wind systems and so on. So that part of world physical geography is actually your climate geography, which is going to include a study of certain meteorological phenomena. Also included in physical geography is ocean geography, where the candidate is expected to understand the development of a series of oceanographic phenomena like ocean currents, ocean tides, and salinity of the oceans, the landforms of the seafloor, and so on. That is ocean geography. So physical geography then is actually in terms of these three components: geomorphology, the study of landforms; climate geography, the study of meteorological and atmospheric phenomena; ocean geography, which is the study of oceanographic phenomena like currents, tides, coral reefs, ocean deposits, etc. I have written here the basic textbooks that you are supposed to go through for this physical geography part of geography. As far as the preliminary exam is concerned, you should read all the textbooks of NCERT from 7th to 12th. You begin with 7th, go into 8th, 9th and 10th, only to be familiar with the most basic terms, the most basic principles. As far as the examination is concerned, you should be thorough with 10th, 11th and 12th. The concepts discussed in these, books of 10th, 11th, 12th, they are the ones which are used by the examination to, make questions. So if you are thorough with the basic concepts which are explained in NCERT texts of 10th, particularly 11th and 12th, you will be able to deal with almost all the questions that are part of world physical geography in terms of these three components. And I have also mentioned that after reading these texts of NCERT pertaining to geography from 7th to 12th, you should be specially focused on this book, Fundamentals of Physical Geography, which is NCERT 11th standard. And Principles of Geography Part 1, Part 2, where these books, Principles of Geography Part 1, Principles of Geography Part 2 are old editions of NCERT. Old editions are before 2000. You have these books available in the market, so you can go through these books also. This is world physical geography. Now, syllabus talks about world social, world economic geography also. Preliminary examination. World social geography and world economic geography are actually part of world human geography. These are part of world human geography. What is contained in world social geography? World social geography includes demography, which is everything about world population and other components of demography like urbanization, besides of course trends in birth rates, death rates, infant mortality rates, all these are part of demography. Plus, world social geography also will include a basic study of some indigenous communities of the world in terms of, some tribal communities, some what do you call primitive communities in different regions of the world. Along with, to be honest, social geography also includes a broad understanding of language families, the structure of religion, in addition to, this indigenous communities, tribes, broadly, very broadly, the different language families, the structure of religion, and of course, it also will include a broad understanding of different racial groups. But that is far more relevant to mains rather than prelims. Social geography of India, however, is kind of important for prelims, where you are supposed to know the most important tribal groups of India, the characteristics of these tribal groups, the language families of India, India's religious structure, and how the population of India belongs to different racial and subracial, groups. As far as the world social geography is concerned, prelims does not focus much on world social geography. What is world economic geography? World economic geography is a study of world industrial patterns, world agricultural patterns, world mineral resources, and in addition to these, world economic geography includes a basic understanding of certain parts of, world transport, like the ocean routes, in other words, the shipping routes, the ports, some important rail routes of the world, and so on. But even in this part of what we call as transport geography, the focus is much more on India. So the ports of India, all right, Indian rail, Indian shipping, inland water transport in India, coastal shipping, some prominent, things about India's roadways. Usually the focus is on India when it comes to this part of transport geography. In the world context, unless some particular part of this transport geography is in use, is in focus, generally it is not asked for prelims. But for mains, paper 2 of the mains syllabus specifically talks about world resources, world agricultural patterns, world industrial patterns. And therefore, the student should make an effort to understand the basics of world resources, world industrial patterns, world agricultural patterns as part of the preparation for prelims itself, so that the foundations are being properly laid for these areas in the mains, which is specifically mentioned in paper 2 of main syllabus. What basic books are to be studied by the student for this part of world social, world economic geography, which I said is actually world human geography? Well, you have this 12th standard book of NCERT, which is Fundamentals of Human Geography. You can go through this, Fundamentals of Human Geography. is 12th standard NCERT. In addition to this, you can also read NCERT books of 7th, 6th, 8th, titled as Lands and People. These books titled as Lands and People of 6th, 7th, 8th deal with the social, economic geography, including physical geography, of course, of different regions of the world. North America, South America, Central America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, like that. So the broad physical features of these different regions, different continents, their economic base, and economic pattern in the form of agricultural patterns, industrial patterns, and some important resources. They are covered at a basic level in these books, so you can go through these books also for dealing with that part of the syllabus in paper 2 of mains, Lands and People, and this 12th standard book of NCERT, Fundamentals of Human Geography. What about Geography of India, which is another part of the syllabus? We have just seen world geography. Geography of India is also going to include physical geography of India, it will also include India's human geography. Now, physical geography of India deals with India's landforms in different regions like mountains, hills, plateaus, how they have developed, what is their structure, what is their geographic importance. So, physical geography of India not only deals with these different issues as far as regions and landforms are concerned, physical geography of India also deals with India's climate, India's river systems, India's vegetation and forest types. So, this is to be done by the student for prelims thoroughly. Entire geography of India, physical in terms of landforms, regions, in terms of vegetation patterns, in terms of river systems, in terms of soils, in terms of climate. This is for prelims, this is also for mains. Entire physical geography of India, where I mentioned the different components, is also there for you in mains. So, you are supposed to be thorough with this section, not only for prelims, but also for some very good, questions in mains. When we talked about world human geography, we talked about social geography as well as economic geography, and therefore, geography of India also includes India's social geography as well as India's economic geography, industrial patterns of India, industrial regions of India, characteristics of India's agriculture, of course, from this perspective of geography, mineral resources, transport geography of India. This is part of economic geography, which also includes some contemporary developments, like some new highways or some projects dealing with, expressways, a new port, its geographic setting. So, these are contemporary developments. Those are also part of your preparation as far as prelims is concerned, because questions do come in prelims in the contemporary developments in this human, which means economic geography. Social geography of India will deal with India's racial groups I mentioned to you, India's language families, the structure of religion and different tribal communities, major tribal groups of India, and the structure of the tribal society, the geographic setting and related things. For these, you are going to read these books. India, People and Economy is one book. As far as geography of India is concerned, where you talk about human geography of India. You are going to consult this book, India, People and Economy. And you are also going to study for physical geography of India, India, physical environment. India physical environment is NCERT 11th standard. India people and economy is 12th standard in CERT. But of course, those textbooks of NCERT dealing with geography right from 7th to 10th will also include a lot of topics dealing with geography of India. 9th standard textbook of, the 9th standard text of NCERT deals with a lot of things which are part of geography of India. Students should also remember one more thing. When they are dealing with geography of India, they are supposed to keep track of certain recent, what you call studies, certain recent reports about different regions of India, some outstanding, facts which are new perhaps, which have been reported. These keep coming in papers, and these also will be covered in some magazines like the Yojana. But if the student is at least familiar with what is being discussed in newspapers as far as some things which are concerned with geography of India, that should be more than enough to deal with some questions that can come in prelims. So you should keep track of these kinds of reports and also some analysis in the form of some articles written in the newspapers, like for example, interlinking of rivers, problems of India's, national highways, problems of India's sports, some recent research into India's climatic phenomena like India's monsoons, some recent findings. You have been reading in the papers in the recent times the changing pattern of the Indian summer monsoon. Particularly this year you have seen papers have been discussing on a regular basis how the behavior of the Indian monsoon, which is a summer monsoon which lasts between June and September, has undergone some basic changes. So we have to update from such articles which are written in the newspapers, including reports. India's social and economic geography fundamentally you can cover from this book, People and Economy. For extended reading as far as questions for mains concerned, for that extended reading, you can consult a regular geography textbook, like for example, Geography of India by Kular. That is only after you finish thoroughly with NCERT. You can consult a regular textbook like Geography of India by Kular only for some select topics and only for some additional information, which can also include some recent examples, some case studies. What should be the approach of the student in all these areas? What is supposed to be thoroughly done by the student? One, basic concepts. You are supposed to be sound with basic concepts of all geographic phenomena. Two, you are supposed to be also knowing some facts. You should have some facts that can include data, that can include some recent, facts in terms of recent trends, Facts that can include data, facts that can include recent trends, and facts which quantify certain geographic phenomena, which quantify some geographic phenomena. An example of a fact dealing with quantification of geographic phenomena: how much of the rainfall that India gets is contributed by India's summer monsoon system, which covers India's landmass between June and September. Does the Indian summer monsoon account for 80% of India's total rainfall, 75%, 60%, like that? And the example is, of all the waters that are drained by India's rivers, how much does the Ganga system account for? A quantification of, a geographic phenomenon. Or even more simpler to understand, what is the total forestry cover of India as a percent of India's landmass? Within which you can have what is the area under, let us say, a particular type of forest, like tropical evergreen forests cover how much of India's landmass, and tropical evergreen forests account for how much of India's forestry cover, how much of India's landmass, how much of India's forestry cover. So, when you are preparing for the UPSC preliminary examination and mains also, because in some answers you will strengthen your answer by quoting some facts, by quoting some data also. So, it is not only basic concepts, of course, for the conceptual clarity, where you are able to discuss a particular geographic process or a phenomenon very clearly in terms of its development, its different dimensions. After that, of course, facts. Third, a little bit of map study. Geography requires you to go through different regions of the world, different regions of India, based on a thorough analysis of a good, atlas which deals with this. Without having that spatial understanding, you should have a clear spatial understanding of certain processes, certain phenomena, in terms of their spatial occurrence in different regions of the world, including different regions of India. A simple example of a geographic process to be understood in terms of its spatial dimension is the development of, for example, tropical cyclones. Which oceans are the breeding grounds for the development of tropical cyclones? What is their travel path? So, you have to have a spatial appreciation of those oceans which give birth to tropical cyclones, their travel tracks, the land masses which lie in their travel tracks which are affected by this weather disturbance, or the pattern of ocean currents in the world's oceans. You need to have a look at the map to see how actually these ocean currents develop and move in different ocean basins of the world. You have to have that clear appreciation. And besides, when it is geography of India, when you talk about different soils of India, different forest types of India, you have to clearly understand in terms of the spatial setting which requires you to consult the atlas. Please remember that map pointing is not part of the exam. as far as general studies is concerned. What I am telling you is, you are not going to be given a map where you need to identify certain features or certain locations. That is not part of your preparation for the exam if it is general studies. You do map pointing for the optional, not for GS. But when you are doing the study of the atlas, it is to have that spatial, idea and understanding of how a particular geographic phenomenon develops in a particular region along with its different dimensions. Like I said, the world spatial pattern of ocean currents, the world spatial pattern of, let us say, weather disturbances like tropical cyclones, like thunderstorms. That doesn't mean that the exam will give you a map asking you to identify the travel path of a particular cyclone. No, that's not part of your preparation for geography in general studies. That is map pointing, which is not part of general studies. So please be clear, you are not going to practice map pointing as far as the prelim exam is concerned or the mains exam is concerned with regards to general studies. What you will definitely do, however, is you are going to study the different geographic processes, different geographic phenomena, particularly when it is geography of India, by carefully seeing the same phenomena in the atlas in different regions of India. And for that part which I mentioned to is world industrial patterns, world agricultural patterns and world resources mains, you will definitely understand the world distribution of resources, you will see the world industrial regions and patterns, by also carefully looking for the same things in the atlas. For that part, world industrial patterns, world agricultural patterns, world mineral resources, you have to definitely consult the atlas so that you are able to clearly appreciate how these are distributed over geographic space. So, very often students think that map pointing has to be done as part of a separate exercise where they keep transferring locations onto an empty map and try to practice how one is supposed to be locating a particular feature on an empty map. Well, that's really not part of your preparation as far as general studies geography is concerned. What is the level of difficulty of questions as far as the civil services preliminary examination is concerned as well as mains? Please remember that if you are clear about the basic concepts and the underlying geographic principles which lead to the development of certain geographic process and phenomena, 70% of your preparation is done for the exam. Which means if you are thorough with the fundamental concepts that are discussed in the geography textbooks pertaining to 10th, 11th and 12th standards, 70% of what is needed for the exam has been met with. The rest 30% you can always, or I will put it this way, the balance 30% is also connected to the basic concepts, but in the form of certain recent developments. Recent developments which you gather from the newspapers, from some magazines, where you make some notes, but which anyway are connected to the basic geographic principles and laws. That is about 30%, and that is particularly relevant for the mains examination. Well, As far as preliminary examination is concerned, how many questions do you get from geography of world, geography of India? There are certain questions which overlap with ecology environment. Geography and ecology environment have many areas which are common, which overlap each other. So, if I include those questions too, along with questions which are properly part of world physical geography and geography of India, the number can go up to around 22 to 24. I am including those questions which are part of the overlap between geography and ecology and environment. So, you are talking about almost around 22 to 24 questions, and that's a reasonably large number when you are talking about the prelims exam, because you are talking about 100 questions. Of these 100 questions, you are talking about around 22, 24, which will not only include the core geography, but also its overlap with ecology and environment, including the recent trends, certain things which have been highlighted in the newspapers, which have been discussed in the newspapers. And what is supposed to be a realistic target for the student, so that in geography, which is part of general studies, if he is able to reach those targets in terms of score, in terms of questions, the student is safe. From these 22 to 24 questions, I will take the conservative lower figure 22. If you are able to definitely get around 17 correct, which is quite easily possible, because questions in geography frequently deal with the most basic concepts, the most basic principles. Getting 17 questions correct on 22 is not difficult. So, if you are able to reach this 16, 17 from these 22, 24, well, you are very safe. You are on the mark. You are in the race, you are on the mark. Now, as far as this course is concerned, my effort will be to make the basic concepts clear, so that all of you very clearly understand how different geographic processes, phenomena develop, what are the underlying principles, and you will also see one more thing. You will also see how the different geographic phenomena have links. That understanding of integration will also come by when you are understanding the basics very clearly. So, our effort here is to see that you are very clear with the basic principles, concepts, and you are able to also get that idea of integration. And secondly, as part of this course, you will also be able to write answers very clearly for mains questions, because you have a clear understanding of the basic concepts and you have a certain kind of grip over some data facts. You will definitely write some good answers for most of the questions that come in the mains. In mains, you are supposed to write answers for questions which are of two different types. Some questions will ask you to write the answers in 150 words, some others will ask you to write the answers in around 250 words. So it depends. So once you do all the basics thoroughly, you will be able to write answers for these 250-word types of questions and 150-word types of questions also, where I told you that your updating from the newspapers will also help you write very good answers for these questions. All of you should therefore begin your work in geography by going through these basic textbooks of NCERT, and I recommend that you start with the 7th standard. In fact, if it's 6th also, it is good enough. You can start with 6th so that you are familiar with the terms. You also know the meanings of different terms which you are going to come across when you read different areas of geography. You should be knowing the meanings of different geographic terms also. And once you start with the 6th standard book and go till 10th, you will be very, very clear about all different geographic terms. And these 6th to 10th books are very easy to, understand. The language is simple, the drawings are good, the explanation is clear. So you are expected to read these books thoroughly. So once you do those books, and once you also understand the basic concepts as part of our course, then as far as geography is concerned, whether it is prelims or mains, you are well equipped to deal with both prelims as well as mains. I am going to discuss all basic concepts, not only as part of geography of world but also geography of India, and with the help of lot of what you call diagrams as well. And then we'll also have some practice examinations, some tests, where you will check out whether your basics are clear and whether you are able to recollect some important points of data and facts. That is how our course is going to be. So at the end of it, you will be very well equipped to deal with this part of general studies. Any queries that you may have, you can always raise them when we meet for the first topic of geography. I will introduce a concept in geography which deals with the birth of the universe itself, a very popular model, a very, very famous theory which deals with the origin of the universe. I will briefly discuss that model with you, and then go into different dimensions of the universe, as part of our introduction to the subject.